What's going on, guys? Kpine here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring the team that helped me hit veteran rank in Ultra League Summer Cup that revolves around a meta sweeper of the past, Venusaur. This cup has helped to restore this Pokemon to its former glory, and boy has it been good for me. With Virizion being absolutely everywhere in this cup, having a Pokemon that walls its typical Leaf Blade Sacred Sword moveset is extremely clutch. Not to mention, it destroys Bellibolt, water types like Jellicent, ground types. It also beats Tentacruel and can hold its own against Cradily, among a lot of the other meta staples. For the team, I'm running a Shadow Swampert lead, which has been extremely strong, let alone a core breaker in some cases. Tentacruel Safe Swap, which, well, does Tentacruel things, and of course, that Venusaur sweeper. Now, I am running the non-Shadow version here. If you have a choice, I'd probably recommend running the Shadow variant, as some of the games I lost was due to the non-Shadow lacking that little extra oomph that would have been extremely helpful. I just don't have the Shadow, and if you don't have the Shadow yourself, then no worries, the regular still did very well. This team has had very consistent results for me, where in this video, I'll be featuring back-to-back 4-1 sets that allowed me to reach veteran rank. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Shadow Swampert into Cradily. Pretty neutral lead here, little bait dependent on the Cradily's part, and it doesn't really matter if they're on Acid or Bullet Seed. You're just going to go for this Hydro Cannon right away to guarantee some nice damage or an early shield, and then dip into your own Tentacruel. This way, you preserve the Swampert, barely taking any damage in return from those double resistant acids, and your opponent either swaps out into something, or you force them to waste a lot of energy on that Cradily, of which, if they do waste the energy on the Cradily, that's kind of your goal, for them to dump it into your Tentacruel. You can abuse Swampert later in the match, especially with its pacing. Here they come in with a Jellicent, after debuffing me with that Rock Tomb. I can tank that Shadow Ball. Now I'm just going to start firing off these Scalds. I kind of want to delay the switch clock so I can swap back into my Swampert and get a nice energy lead here. So we are able to preserve that Tentacruel, pivot into the Swampert. I will take the Shadow Ball, knowing that if I shield that Shadow Ball, the Cradily has a chance to come back in and just one-shot me with a Grass Knot. So I'm gonna let go the move that I know I can guarantee survive, instead of take a bait call later in the match like that. But instead of coming back in with that Cradily, they come in with an Acid Victreebel. This is going to be a very tough end game to win. We do get both Sludges off, and then I get denied a fast move here, and that is going to be very troublesome, especially since they have Acid Spray. Fortunately, we do reach this Parting Scald. Come back in with my Venusaur, and I get denied again. These denials are very, very frustrating. But fortunately, that is just an Acid Spray. Since we do know they're on Acid Spray, it's most likely Acid Spray Leaf Blade. We don't have to shield anything there. They come back in with Cradily. We're going to shield the Rock Tomb since we know it's going to do the most. I'm going to load up, fire off this Frenzy Plant to the Cradily. Would have been nice to not get denied earlier there, so I'd be at the back-to-back Frenzies just in case the Jelly has a move. So we're just going to hope the Jelly does not have a move here. It doesn't. So fortunately, we do get this Frenzy Plant to knock out the Jelly before they reach a Shadow Ball. Back in comes the Shadow Vic, and they reach a double resisted Leaf Blade, and this is going to be very, very close. Leaf Blade does not KO. Venu gets the double resisted Vine Whip down, and that is a good game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Shadow Swampert into a Shadow Zapdos. A little spicy here, but a fairly neutral lead. I want to say even positive in the favor of Swampert. Both dealing resisted fast moves here, but Swampert can tank a Drill Peck, while Zapdos can't really tank a Hydro Cannon. But Zapdos does have that faster pacing, so Hydro does get a shield, and from here, they're loading up, playing to the CMP tie. We're not going to fall for it. We will give up a shield, and we will fire off our next Hydro Cannon right before they reach their next Drill Peck. Hydro Cannon coming through. If my opponent decides to double shield their Zapdos, so will I. I want to force switch with my Swampert, but they let it go, which is very nice considering that they have a Typhlosion. So now, not only do I reach a Hydro, but I get to put this Typhlosion on my Tentacruel as well. They get a nice double Incinerate lead, but they have no shields, and Tentacruel can easily take a Thunder Punch here. I will let the first one go, shield up the second one, and then fire off a Scald to take out the Typhlosion. That's if my opponent does stay in this matchup. Second Thunder Punch comes through. They swap out into a Virizion, and oh baby, that's why we have the Venu. Opponent sees it, and they do concede the match. GG's. Next battle, Swampert into Origin Form Palkia. Spicy pick here from my opponent, but these Dragon Breaths are going to be very oppressive. We're going to fire off the Sludge right away. We want to be able to dictate damage or shield before my opponent reaches an Aqua Tail. That lands to some very nice damage. I went to go for a catch there, but my opponent doesn't allow it, throwing on very good timing in the middle of my Mud Shots. I'm looking for a Mud Shot down. I can't quite get it, but what I can do instead is save that energy and waste my opponent's Aqua Tail on my Tentacruel. And now they counter swap in a regular Typhlosion, and if this is their best answer to a Tentacruel, their back line is extremely weak to water here. Scald does get a shield from my opponent, and we get the attack drop, which is very, very nice. This way it allows us to survive 2 Thunder Punches and get off another Scald where before we wouldn't have. Honestly, if we didn't get that attack drop, I still feel like we'd be in a good spot since all the HP and energy my Swampert has, but this is kind of the nail in the coffin. Now my opponent here, they have a Thunder Punch stored, and I was thinking that I can just go for a Acid if they want to Incinerate down and then snipe down with Swampert, because I don't want to combo play right away for them to predict that, which my opponent does predict that, so we're able to read it. They don't make the catch, and then they do end up conceding. GG's. Next battle, Swampert into Golisopod. Negative lead here, and we're just going to fire off the Sludge right away. Once we fire off the Sludge, we're just going to pivot into Tentacruel again with the hope that they end up dumping energy into it. We pivot into Tentacruel, and they do. I think this might have just been a catch that they were going for good timing, but either way, it works out perfectly fine. And now they come in as Zekrom, so it's very fortunate we do catch or bait this out, and we have our Swampert to deal with it, a healthy Swampert. That's a lot of like how you want to play out negative leads for Swampert in these kinds of situation, is kind of just chip it and then dip into your Tentacruel. That way you can kind of try and abuse Swampert energy later to overcome that matchup with either a shield advantage or, as I mentioned, energy. And my opponent does end up giving up a shield here. They go for the Dragon Breath down. They can't get it. They play to the CMP tie, so very nice counting by them. But Swampert more than did its job. I can now come in with Venu, try and go for a Vine Whip down, and with a shield advantage Venusaur, I'm feeling pretty good about this matchup, that I can pretty much take out anything as long as it isn't an Incinerate user and it's a Skeledirge. So even with that shield advantage, there's not winning here, specifically with that Torch, especially with that Torch Song. So we do end up conceding. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, Swampert into Swampert. Now, if your opponent is a Shadow Swampert, I like to stay in, overfarm a little bit just in case your opponent goes for the catch right away, fire off a Hydro Cannon, and then on the CMP tie to your second move, fire off a Sludge. Because with the Mud Shots and Hydro Cannon damage, this is Sludge range. So just in case your opponent tries to go for a catch like they do here, they do not catch the Hydro Cannon and instead catch a Sludge. Now, seeing it was a Swampert lead and a Feraligatr safe swap, I was thinking about coming in Venu because surely their third is strong into Venu, but I didn't want to have to give up a shield to a potential Ice Beam. So that's why I come in Tentacruel here. We'll see if it ends up working out, where I'm just going to tank both of those Hydro Cannons, go past 100 energy in order to get the farm down. My opponent comes back in Swampert. I don't want to throw to waste this energy, so I'm just going to shield it, get the Acid down. Now I still have this 100 energy. See what's in back? It's a Trevenant, and now we just get to fire off these Scalds. First Scald's able to land, no debuff. Second Scald is landing. We're hoping for that debuff so our Venu can comfortably tank a Shadow Ball. We do get that debuff, and now this just puts us in a winning position here, because we will reach 3 Frenzy Plants to take out the Trevenant before they reach 3 moves of their own, especially since they didn't bait, to take out the Venu. Now, if it's a regular Swampert lead, what I like to do is fire off that Hydro Cannon, and then on the CMP tie, I like to swap into my Tentacruel to try and catch, because if they stay in and they fire off like a Hydro Cannon or a Sludge of their own, both are going to be resisted into the Tentacruel. So that's kind of like the way I like to play it. Shadow Lead, play out the zeros, go for the Hydro, then the Sludge in case they catch. If it's a regular, go for the Hydro and then catch onto your own Tentacruel for the second one. GG's to my opponent there. Next battle, Shadow Swampert into Shadow Victreebel. We just stay in and I'm going to fire off the Sludge right away. Shadow Victreebel is almost always over farm watching for the catch. And in doing so, it sets you up in a good spot. Here, I misplay it. I land that Sludge. I was expecting them to shield, so I just kind of had that subconsciously, where if you go for the Sludge and they shield it, yeah, perfect. Pivot into your own Tentacruel. But if they let that go, you can now take switch with your Swampert, which is something you should want to do for situations like this, just in case they do have that Jellicent. So you fire off that Sludge, they no shield it, you stay in, shield their move, shield their second move, since they'll outpace you to 2 Leaf Blades, and then you're just going to mud shot all the way down, leave with an extremely healthy Swampert with a ton of energy, and you're just in a great spot from there on out. Now, because we pivoted into our Tentacruel when we landed that Sludge, that my opponent still has both shields, we're in a little bit of a tough situation here. We will fire off the Hydro, hoping it KOs. It doesn't, but we do get a nice mud shot down. Now we're not out of it yet, because we got this catch too. We have 2 shields. We get this Leaf Blade catch. We're not out of it yet, hoping it's something Venu can work with, but it's a Skeletor, so we do concede. We got a 4-1 set in those earlier battles, and that was the first battle of the second set with a loss. So we're looking for 4 straight wins here to close it out in order to hit that veteran rank. Bellibolt Lead, fantastic lead for us. They pivot into a Golisopod, and we're just going to fire off a Sludge right away, take advantage of that one turn it takes a swap, and then come in Tentacruel. My opponent surprisingly shields it, which if they shield it, that's fine. I can just tank all their energy and then go for Sludge Wave before they reach their third move. But if they let it go, then you're still going to pivot, go into your Tentacruel, and then you can go for a Scald to take them out before their third move. And that's a way to guarantee switch there. Sludge Wave doesn't quite take them out. They do reach a third parting move, but that is no worry. Tentacruel can hang on, no problem. It's a very bulky Pokemon. They come back in that Bellibolt, so we're going to go for the Scald. I go for the Scald here for the chance of getting the attack drop. Honestly, I should have just gone for the Sludge Wave since I was only going to reach 1 move. I mean, if I got the attack drop, I would have reached 2. So all just a risk, but should have gone for the safer play. Either way, they have a Virizion in the back. We have a shield advantage Venusaur, and again, most Virizions aren't running that Stone Edge, and even if they are, it's still dominant for the Venusaur. So my opponent concedes. GG's. Next battle, Roserade Lead. A little bit of an interesting lead here. It does pace a lot quicker to its charge moves on Poison Sting as opposed to Poison Jab. So we're going to fire off the Sludge before they reach a potential Leaf Storm. And I know Roserades love to bait, but this is a very risky bait for a Roserade. So I throw up a shield. It ends up being a Leaf Storm. We get the shield call correct, and that is very, very nice for us. So now we are significantly ahead on energy. Opponent goes down 2 shields, and now we're going to go down 2 shields ourselves. Reason being, if you correctly shield a Leaf Storm, you're just straight up going to win the 2s based off of pacing. Since even if they go for Weather Ball bait the second time around, you're still going to reach that Sludge before their second Leaf Storm. So that's why it's also important for like a Shadow variant here for that extra damage. I think Roserade would survive if it's a non-Shadow Swampert. But either way, they bring in an Oranguru. My backline does not want to see that with the Confusion users. So we will do so much damage with it with our Shadow Swampert. Shadow Swampert putting on an absolute clinic here. Tank that energy onto Tentacruel. We outpace to the Scald before they reach their next Leaf Storm. And now my opponent's down to their last Pokemon. It's a Skeletor, and it was getting swept there by that Shadow Swampert either way. So they do concede. GG's. Next battle, Swampert into Kingdra. I want to say this is a positive lead for the Swampert just because of how slow Kingdra's pacing is. We do go for the first Sludge. My opponent ends up pivoting out into a Genesect, and this is very bad for my back line. So I'm just going to stay in here, hoping that I'll be able to reach 3 Hydro Cannons to land onto this Genesect, because I'm not sure if the third Hydro Cannon after the Mud Shots will KO or not, but it does very, very respectable damage. I think it just might, seeing how much those Mud Shots do. But I don't think I'm going to reach a third Hydro, so I'm going to save my Swampert for later to hopefully reach a third Hydro against something in the end game. I'm going to send in my Tentacruel. Seeing they're on Techno Blast Water, I could tank this energy no problem. Even if they're on Techno Blast Electric, I would still be able to survive the electric one to get off the Scald. So that's exactly what we do. Fire off the Scald. My opponent survives on 1 HP and banks a move for later, which is kind of unfortunate. And then they come in Kingdra, they land the Outrage, but Tentacruel, ever so bulky, hangs on, gets the Sludge Wave to take out the Kingdra. Oh, and what do you know? It's another Virizion in the back, and Up a Shield Venusaur is going to put in so much damage here. My opponent staying in, firing off a move. Sacred Sword. It is not that Stone Edge. We go for Sludge Bomb. I'm not the Shadow, so a single Sludge Bomb will not KO. From a Shadow, pretty sure it would from there. But either way, we do outpace to this Frenzy. Take out the Virizion. Opponent cannot do anything with that 1 HP Genesect, so they do concede GG's. And now we advance to 3-1 in the set after starting off with the first game loss, looking for that 4-1 comeback and veteran, and they lead Oranguru. Very nice to see the Oranguru on the lead, but we are going to have to go down shields in this matchup. First Hydro Cannon does land, always making sure we're throwing on good timing, which is in the middle of the confusion or on odd numbers. They go for the Trailblaze to boost up their confusions, loading up extra energy, and I go for the Hydro here. If my opponent tries to go for a second Trailblaze, I'll be able to CMP tie them to my next Hydro, which is very, very nice, taking their final shield like that. And if you do CMP tie them, take their final shield, they'll just let the move go and then come in with your Tentacruel, which as you'll see I do here. They end up going for a Brutal Swing anyways, but if your opponent fires off a Brutal Swing right away and you can't CP tie, that's when you would go down your second shield in that matchup and utilize good timing as well as Swampert energy to take care of their Oranguru. So I come in with Tentacruel, tank that Brutal Swing, fire off a Scald. I would be able to get an Acid down, but I didn't want to take too much confusion damage, which is why I fire off the Scald. But they have a Gastro and a Virizion in the back against my shield advantage Venu. Opponent does not want to play anymore, so we do clutch up that 4-1 set, which will be enough to bring us over that 2,500 mark and achieve the rank of veteran. I know this cup is pretty XL heavy, so I'm glad I had some success with a team that I could bring to you guys involving 2 pretty cheap mons, with the third being one that's had a few events to grind those spawns for those XL candies. It was also really nice using Venusaur again. I feel like there's just something good about using meta staples of the past when you're given the opportunity to. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.